Welcome back to another episode of Between the Hashes. It's been a long exodus due to exams, holiday season, all that good stuff. But we are back, me and Peter today. Obviously, just added Zach into the mix too, but he is finishing up exams today, and Charlie is taking his girlfriend to get
Charlie's
her
a
teeth
little bitch.
moved.
That's what he
Charlie's
is.
a little bit. So, just me and Peter today talking playoffs. We actually got a playoff game tonight. Indiana goes to Notre Dame. Big game, battle for the state of Indiana. A lot of people calling it the Battle of the Frauds. Um, but definitely want to get into it. Definitely think it could be a good game. Peter, what are our initial thoughts going into it?
I got another name for this game: the Battle of the Red Zone.
Yeah.
Indiana has been an elite team, a dominant, efficient team in the red zone this season. They have one of the best scoring offenses, not only scoring in the red zone, but getting to the red zone. In their games that they've played, they've gotten to the red zone 66 times and scored on 62 of them, with 54 of them being touchdowns, which is first in the nation. They are 100%. They've scored 100% of the time in the red zone as the away team, and they're going to South Bend tonight. However, Notre Dame's defense has also been elite in the red zone. They are only allowing 82.1 drives in the red zone to end in a score, which is 65th in the nation. That's pretty mid. But they've only allowed 16 touchdowns on 28 attempts, which is ninth in the nation. On the opposite side of the ball, Notre Dame's offense is they're middle of the pack when it comes to scoring in the red zone. 41 scores on 49 attempts, 84% completion, 71st in the nation. However, they have huge opportunity for mismatches tonight. I think a lot of their tall guys are tall playmakers. I mean, they have Mitchell Evans 6'5", Cooper Flanagan 6'6", 6'7", Eli Raridan. I think they can really take advantage of the smaller IU secondary, like especially guys like D'Angelo Pons.
Yeah, Pons is great, but he's really short.
He is really short, yeah. But then, yeah, that's what I got for it really is about the red zone. Whoever can dominate in the red zone, be efficient, play their game, get to the red zone, more importantly, I think is going to win this game.
Yeah, and we know based off of kind of what's happened all year, Sig's going to be aggressive in the red zone. And I think if you put Sig in a 4th and 1 situation down there, that he's going to go for it more times than not. Could be different because of the playoffs. Could just take his points, but I just don't see him doing that. But like you were saying, I mean, Indiana, they're really efficient in the red zone. But I think one of the key things for Indiana this game is you cannot get behind the chains. You cannot be forced into these 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s consistently, because Notre Dame's pass defense is one of the best in the country. They're ranked 1st in opponent completion percentage. They're 2nd in yards per pass, 3rd in pass yards a game, and 5th in forcing interceptions. Now, Rourke doesn't turn the ball over a lot, but I also don't think that he has seen many secondaries like this year. Led by Xavier Watts. Obviously, Benjamin Morrison isn't playing because he's injured, but great, well-coached secondary. Credit Marcus Freeman. And that Notre Dame run defense also gets after the quarterback at a pretty high rate. I believe it's a top 20 rate in the country. So you can't be in these positions where you're in 3rd and 7 or longer, having to throw it, having these long developing plays, letting their pass rush get there. You got to take advantage. You have to get yourself in 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s, where those quick developing passes or these run plays where you're running it between the tackles with guys like Ellison. Or Tyson Lawton. So it's going to be a like you said, battle of the red zone. Defenses. I have a feeling both offenses will get in the red zone a good bit, but you got to bend, don't break, allow field goals, get 4th down stops.
Yep.
Yeah, and defensively too. Indiana, they stop the run better than anyone in the country statistically. They're ranked 1st in the country in run defense. I believe they average 70-something rush yards allowed per game, even holding Ohio State to 115, and Ohio State's average is 170, and that's one of the best running back tandems in the country. When Indiana dominates an opponent, they typically outrush them by quite a bit. Obviously, you want to talk about Rourke and how they throw the ball around, but Indiana is a run-first team. They run the ball. They try to establish a run game. So if Indiana establishes a run game tonight, I think this game could go the Hoosiers' way. I think that there is a lot of talent on Notre Dame, and I think they could out-talent Indiana. But But if IU can establish a run game and continue to play that brand of football defensively in the run game, especially against a guy like Jeremiah Love, who's one of the best in the country, I think they have a chance to win. Aiden Fisher, Jalen Walker, in my opinion, one of the best linebacker duos in the country. So, what are our predictions going into it?
Well, this is how I look at it. Indiana did not put up a fight against Ohio State. That might as well just been the Purdue-Ohio State game and the Northwestern game, honestly. Notre Dame has been in the top 4 this year. Ohio State was also in the top 4 this year. They're both, at one point or another, the committee has viewed both of these teams as top 4 elite teams. And I don't know, it's gonna be tough for Indiana. And again, Notre Dame hasn't played anybody. So, like you said, battle of the frauds. I see this game going either way because I know it's like Indiana played Ohio State, a top 4 team, got blown out. Notre Dame has been top 4, so we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Personally, no bias. I have Notre Dame winning this game, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm sure that'll change by game time, but give me Notre Dame. I'll say the score. Let's pick a score. Let's say like 21-17.
Yeah, I think this game could go really either way. I think the one thing where it will go Indiana's way, obviously stop the run, all of that. But if Indiana can do one thing really well, if they can run the ball really well, if they can throw the ball really well, because it's going to open up other things. If Rourke can get in rhythm this game, I think Indiana's going to be hard to beat. I'm really interested to see the matchup, between the Notre Dame run game and the Indiana pass game. But when I look back at the Ohio State game personally, I see 2 huge special teams plays. And those are the only really 2 mishaps special teams wise that Indiana has had all year. And it was in a big game in a hostile environment. Now, I'm not calling Notre Dame a hostile environment. I think it'll be loud, a good environment. But when I look back at that game, I think it could have been a little bit closer without those errors. My brain really wants to take Notre Dame, but I do think that Indiana's Cinderella run, if you want to call it that, doesn't in here. I think Indiana wins very, very close. I think this game comes down to the last drive, one way or the other, but I'm taking Indiana very, very, very close.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good game. I'll be watching every minute of it.
Definitely. Moving over to Penn State, they have the Mustangs coming in, the Ponies. SMU goes into Happy Valley. Kind of a weird matchup. Never thought I'd be seeing this in the playoffs ever. But here we are. SMU loses the ACC championship, gets the last bid. Penn State obviously kind of had it locked up going into the Big Ten championship game. Early thoughts, early analysis before Saturday.
This is one of the games I had. This is the only game I had as an upset, I believe, in my bracket that I made. And I think I saw a lot of people pick SMU to beat Penn State this Saturday. Penn State, in the Ohio State game just it left a huge impression on me. Penn State did not play good. They had no offensive touchdowns. Their pass game was locked up everywhere on the field. So it was really hard for me to pick Penn State against SMU, who has had a dominant defense all year. Kevin Jennings, for me, is the X factor in this game. Kevin Jennings is a dog. He can handle pressure brought on by road environments, and Happy Valley, being Happy Valley, will bring the pressure. Away at Louisville, he was 21 for 27 for nearly 300 yards. Away at Stanford, which is, it's not a hostile environment, but is an away game nonetheless. 17 for 27, 322 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did have the Duke game, really poor game. They won, don't get me wrong. But I think he had like 1 touchdown and 3 picks or something like that. It was not a good game for him. Yeah.
6 turnovers, yeah.
Yeah, 6 turnovers and they won the game. I remember talking about that. So yeah, I think Kevin Jennings, he's a dog. Absolute dog. I think he's going to be, the game, I like you said about Curtis Rourke, I think if he can get in a rhythm, I think this game will go SMU's way. SMU though, even including with Kevin Jennings, they've been an efficient team under pressure. Kevin Jennings has his quarterback rating has been 156, which is second in the nation while pressured, and while under pressure, he's thrown for 9.8 yards per attempt, which is second in the nation. He also thrives against man coverage, which Penn State calls nearly 40% of the time, which is 17th nationally. He again throws for 9.8 yards per attempt against man coverage. His pass efficiency is even better than what it is under pressure. He throws for 176.4, which is 8th in the country, and he's thrown 10 touchdowns against man. So I think this game is like perfect for Kevin Jennings. I don't think there's any other defense in the playoff that he'd rather go against with their schemes and how often Penn State gives up explosive plays. Now to Penn State's side of the ball, Tyler Warren. I think he's going to eat. SMU has allowed 627 receiving yards to tight ends, which is nearly worse in the nation. They've given up 56 receptions and 17 touchdowns, which are all 115th or lower in the nation, which is like out of like 134 or something like that, 132. I think Tyler Warren is going to have a huge game. I didn't look at the betting odds for him, but I'm taking the over on everything. I don't care, pass yards, receptions, touchdowns. He's going to be huge in this game. And you saw it against, what was it, USC? One of the games he had 200 yards, or I don't remember which game it was. It might have been USC, probably not. But I think we'll have a game similar. I'm not saying he's going to put up 200 receiving yards, but I think it'll have something close to it. But yeah, that's what I got for Penn State. And then offensively, again, I know Penn State doesn't have playmakers, and we've talked about that time and time again on the podcast, how they don't have any outside receivers, they don't have any vertical threats. SMU is very prone to giving up deep balls, and Drew Aller has gotten exponentially better since last season in throwing the deep ball. He has improved his completion percentage 20 points from 30 to 50 between this year and last. He's went from 6 touchdowns to 8, and his efficiency has doubled almost. That's not true. It's went up 100 points basically. It went from 160 to 250 efficiency points. So all things are looking in the way of Penn State, but I have faith in Kevin Jennings.
Yeah, and speaking of Jennings being good under pressure, he is definitely going to be under a lot of pressure this weekend, facing one of the best pass rush duos, edge duos in general. Danny Sutton and Abdul Carter, two of the best in the country, one of which is probably going to be a top 10 pick this spring. So obviously I'm not incredibly educated on the SMU tackles. I do think that it could get ugly if they don't show up. I think that's a huge part of the game is trying to find a way to really just take Sutton and really take Carter out of the game. To be quite honest with you, the way Oregon did it was a bunch of uncalled holdings. So maybe you think about something like that. But the SMU offense is one of, if not the worst offenses in the country when it comes to getting penalized. 81 penalty yards a game. And they're going into a pretty hostile environment. Noted it's not at night, which I think is a huge disservice that our first Penn State playoff game is not at night. But it is what it is. But you're going into a loud environment nonetheless. You have one of the worst, rates of getting penalties in the country offensively, which on offense is usually when teams on the road get their penalties. Against Clemson last week, 6 penalties. Clemson had 0 penalties. Penn State wants to really win, really dominate this game. They got to win that battle, which I think they can. They cannot be heavily penalized. You have to. Your offense has been pretty stagnant all year, minus last week. You cannot get set back with holdings, dumb penalties. I mean, you got to stay disciplined. Defensively, for SMU, you got to stop the run. Obviously, Aller did throw 2 picks against Oregon, but he also looked exponentially better when they had an open run game with Katron Allen and Nick Singleton really getting it going against Oregon. Ohio State, on the other hand, completely shut down Penn State's run game. I think Tyler Warren was the leading rusher. So and you saw what happened to Aller. He really couldn't do anything. So if you're SMU, you really got to shut down the run. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but that's what you have to do. Aller, if you look at the USC game, 3 picks, OSU game, 1 pick and stagnant, and those 2 games were one of their worst rushing performances efficiency-wise on the season. USC game was almost a loss, but Aller just didn't play well. OSU game, Aller didn't play well, and it was a loss. So when you look at the rest of the games when they're efficient running the ball, Aller's been like 10 times more efficient. I think I said that earlier in the year too. So if Penn State can get that run game going, I think it could be a long day for SMU. So we'll have to see kind of how that works out. Jennings is prone, to turnovers. He's been really good under pressure. Did have 6 against Duke, which in my opinion was probably so far the best scheme defense he's played. Manny Diaz is really good at affecting quarterbacks. Offense is ranked 101st in giveaways a game. So if you're Penn State, you gotta mix up, coverages, blitz packages, and all that. I'm going to take Penn State to win this game, just based off of, I guess, I think they're gonna be able to run the ball. I think they're gonna be able to run the ball against SMU. I think they're gonna be able to get it going. I could be wrong, but I think that's the reason they win. And if you're SMU, you cannot do what you did against Clemson and just let Clemson jump out to like a 20-point lead like that. If you do that against Penn State, that game is going to be over real fast. So if you're SMU, you got to strike first, strike hard. But I'm taking Penn State. I think they're going to get the run game going, and I think they're going to win this game. I'm not sure what the spread is. Was it like?
I don't even know. I could look right now.
Okay. Part of me wants to say like 9, but part of me wants to say like 13. I wasn't sure. But I'm taking 8.5.
Yeah.
I think SMU is going to show up. Just it's a playoff game. They're going to be juiced. But I think Penn State in their run game will end up wearing them down, and just having more depth will wear SMU down. So I'm going to take the Nittany Lions.
I will continue to back what I said. I'll continue to back my SMU pick. Give me the Mustangs 18-16 against the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, I definitely think it has I think this game is either going to be like 13-14 or 50-45.
Yeah,
you never know what you're going to get with Penn State. So we'll see. And side note, I also think if you're James Franklin, you need to win this game.
Oh yeah, I don't think he'll be employed in January if he does not win this game.
Yeah, I think you might be right, but we'll have to see. I mean, you seem to make the playoffs even with losing to Ohio State, but it's interesting. I don't know. You want to win more than you want to do more than just make the playoffs. You want to at least win a game in the playoffs. Make a run. He hasn't shown that yet, so we'll see.
And they only made the playoffs because Ohio State lost to Michigan. So.
Well, I think they would have made the playoffs anyways, just with the Big
It would have been close. It would have been really close. They would have been a fringe. They would have been like an SMU Bama type thing.
Yeah, but it's funny because like Penn State's resume compared to SMU, I mean it's not, I think Penn State's better, but it's not much. If you didn't have the Oregon loss, like only the 8-point loss to Oregon, I think it would be pretty comparable resumes. Mm-hmm. You got the Illinois win. You went on the road to Wisconsin, but anyways. Like I said, the best thing on Penn State's resume right now is a 7-point loss to Ohio State.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
But moving on.
It's the same way that Ohio State's, biggest resume boost is the 1-point loss to Oregon. So, similar situation.
Very similar situation. Which is interesting because we've seen in the past few years the committee look at a good loss rather than other things. But, they contradict themselves every year, so there's not much you can do. Moving on, we actually have a high school rematch. Back in high school, I think it was Cade played for Westlake in Texas. Quinn played for Eastlake. I might have that backwards. Faced off in the state championship game. Cade won. Shootout game, I believe. I think I remember watching it. So we got a fun quarterback rematch between Quinn and Cade, at least for now, unless Quinn is unable to go for the game due to injuries or if he gets benched, which we've seen both happen this year. So I think this game is going to be closer than people think. I think we could be in for an actually decent game, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Yeah, I completely disagree. The spread is 11 and a half, which is pretty big for a playoff game, in my opinion. I mean, almost two scores or almost two touchdowns. It's a huge range. I really don't think Clemson has a chance to win this game. I don't think there's a scenario that Clemson beats Texas. I saw them at the Virginia Tech game, and they were dog shit. They were just so bad. And they didn't score in the first half. And yeah, given they won, and they scored like 20 something in the second half. The first half is just, I don't know. Cade couldn't get going. The run game couldn't get going. It was really just a defensive shootout for the first 2 quarters, which isn't a bad thing. It just wasn't entertaining, at least for me. I think all Texas has to do to win is play their brand of football and continue to do what they've done all year. They've thrived or thriven. They throve. They've been really good on explosive plays this year. Quinn Ewers is third in the nation for explosive plays, which just plays over 20 plus yards. And Clemson has allowed 41 of these explosive plays over the course of the season, which is tied for 92nd nationally. Texas, this is a home game for Texas. They have been elite defensively at home. They've only allowed 1 pass touchdown, first in the nation. They've forced quarterbacks into an 83.8 quarterback rating, which is first in the nation. They've forced 12 interceptions, which is third in the nation. And they've only allowed 4.6 yards per attempt per pass, which is fourth in the nation. So I really think just all Texas has to do is not shit the bed, to be honest with you. Clemson's red zone offense this year has been pretty dog shit. I mean, Cade Klubnik is throwing 55% in the red zone, which is 65th in the nation. He's only throwing 3.6 yards per attempt, and he's only thrown to a 158.9 passer rating. So, yeah, I really don't think this is a close game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so you're taking Texas.
Texas might win 45-21 for all I care.
It's a pretty big gap.
Yeah, I think they cover. I think they double the spread, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not going to be close.
I'll tell you, I do think it could go that way. I would 100% think it could go that way. But I think where it gets interesting is Clemson, they're first in the entire country in not throwing picks, or at least Klubnik is first in the country in not giving the ball away. Not number 5 in giveaways overall, like including fumbles, fourth downs, and all of that. Their defense is 12th in takeaways, right? And overall, Clemson, I think they're a top 3 team when it comes to turnover margin. So they win their games on the turnover battle. Texas, barely a top 60 team when it comes to throwing interceptions, and they are 102nd in giveaways a game. So that's a terrible matchup for Texas. You have a team like Texas who is turning the ball over a lot, and you have a team like Clemson who can force a lot of turnovers and doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So if Texas is turning the ball over a lot and Clemson isn't turning the ball over a lot, I think things could get pretty interesting, especially if Clemson's offense starts winning or Clemson in general starts winning the field position battle because of these turnovers. So Quinn needs to play a really clean game. I don't think Texas needs to do anything special to win this game. I think they need to, like you said, stick to their brand of football, make the smart reads, don't force anything, but take your shots when they're there. Obviously, Clemson has a very, very, very iffy secondary. You said, I think Clemson is one of the worst teams when it comes to allowing explosive plays. We also saw Ewers 2 weeks ago against Georgia. I think he threw the ball 47 times and threw 2 picks, and they put up, 19 points, I believe, or it was something a bit. Yeah, it was something a bit. Had 307 yards, but only put up 17 points. So Ewers in Texas in general is simply a better team when Ewers is throwing 20 to 30 times a game, maybe a little bit more, when they're efficient. Ewers, I think against Georgia, I think he was sitting at a something percent completion rate. And the other interesting thing against Georgia is Trey Wisner, 2.6 a carry. Jaden Blue, 1 yard a carry. And that forced Ewers to have to throw the ball a lot more because that run game just wasn't working. So if you're Clemson, obviously your defense hasn't been up to par, like your average Clemson defense is under Dabo Swinney. But I also think if you stop that run game for Texas and you force Quinn to throw a lot of balls, that he's bound to make a mistake, especially against a secondary who's been really good at getting turnovers all year. Yeah. With all of that being said, Texas probably has Clemson's actually talent-wise, they're one of the most talented teams on paper in the country. But I think just, when you don't look at paper, you kind of just look at a team. Texas definitely has more talent, especially, offensively. I don't want to offensively compared to Clemson's defense. So, if you're Clemson, you got to force turnovers, like I said. You got to continue to play that brand of football. Even if you're allowing a lot of yards, like Georgia did to Ewers, keep them off schedule, keep them behind the chains and force Ewers into weird throwing situations. So, while I do think Texas could run away with this game if they come out firing, because that Texas defense is physical. I mean, that front seven especially is good. I mean, they got a Thorpe winner in the secondary along with a bunch of other guys. So Texas could very easily run away with this game, especially with how weak Clemson's secondary is. But I really do think if Clemson can kind of stop the run, not completely, but limit their efficiency on the ground, keep them behind the sticks to where they're not running the ball on, 3rd and 3 rather than 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8. I think this game could get pretty interesting, just because of how turnover prone Texas has been. Still taking Texas to win this game, but I do think it's going to be pretty close. At least for a while, Texas could, score a late touchdown to make it look worse than it is. But I do think this game's close, but I am taking Texas to win.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have a score. I think Texas covers. So
yeah, score-wise, I could see a 30-20. I think that would be, around that. If Clemson's able to do the things I said, and like I said, even if Clemson can do the things I said, Texas should still win the game.
Yeah.
But I do think it could be a little closer, just based off of the turnover issues and how Clemson kind of benefits from that matchup. But obviously, we will have to wait until Saturday. Another game we're going to have to wait till Saturday night, the last game of the first round. Tennessee goes to the Shoe. There's been a lot of hype around this game. Both fan bases are incredibly excited, it seems. Neither side will shut up about it. No offense to either fan on any side. I don't blame Tennessee fans because they haven't seen success in a really long time on the football field.
And they're not good.
Early thoughts going into Saturday night.
This is a game all about the run. Both teams have elite running back rooms. Quinton Judkins, Travion Henderson against Dylan Sampson. It'll be interesting to see what Jim Knowles draws up against Dylan Sampson, because he's been elite against a stacked box this year. Very interestingly, he's scored 8 touchdowns, which is first in the nation against 8 men in the box on 48 carries, and only 3 yards per attempt. But I'm sure a lot of these are like goal line situations and shit like that. So we'll see what Knowles draws up, if he stacks the box or if he tries to limit Nico's pass game. So we'll see what happens there. LSU, red zone defense against UCK's red zone offense is an interesting target to look at. OSU has one of the best red zone defenses. They've only allowed touchdowns on 34.5% of their red zone appearances, which is elite. And UTK has scored touchdowns on 61% of their red zone drives. So, you saw the stand against Penn State, the goal line stand that they had. I thought that was like
I think
the
Ohio State.
embodiment. Yeah.
I think Ohio State is going to need one of those Saturday, actually.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they have it against Michigan too, but we lost that game, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Tennessee gets real aggressive on fourth down on the goal line.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to see Ohio State's red zone defense come out to play, especially on like goal line at like 1 or 2 right there. That's where they really need to thrive, and they have all year. So they just have to continue that moving into the Tennessee game. And then this is a home game for Ohio State, being the 8th seed. Ohio State's defense at home has been elite, given they've played most of their non-conference games at home, and even with having some of their home games being Big Ten games like Iowa, which was blowout, and Indiana. But defensively at home, they've only allowed 105 yards per game, which is first in the nation. But I like to say that with a grain of salt because, like I said, they've played almost all of their non-conference games and most of their non-important games. I wouldn't call Indiana non-important, but it wasn't a close game. And then away offense for Tennessee, they're only putting up 197 yards per game, which is 92nd in the nation. It's really bad. I think the X factor for this game is Will Howard. Will Howard has been elite against the blitz and pressure this year, and it's a thing of beauty to watch him stand in the pocket, unbothered, and throw a dot downfield. He has been the best quarterback in the nation against the blitz. He's completed 77% of his passes against the blitz, which is first in the nation. And his pass efficiency is 222, which is also first in the nation. Man coverage is also something he strives against. Again, 74% completion against man, and Tennessee uses man coverage in 24.7 of their defensive plays, which is 77th in the nation. I'm really excited to see how Will Howard plays in this game. I think this is a legacy game for him. And he's been up and down, and more up than down, honestly. But he's had those bad moments. I mean, the pick 6 against Penn State, wasn't a good look. But then, he bounced back. He's really good at doing that. He's really good at making early mistakes. And I'm not saying he's good. He does that a lot. But he's good at bouncing back from his first quarter mistakes if he makes them. So we'll see how he plays. I'm really excited for this game personally as an Ohio State fan. I think this game will secure Ryan Day's job for at least one more year, and if he doesn't get past Tennessee, I think he's gone. And I think
he's in trouble if he doesn't.
I really do think he's in trouble. I think it'll either be Chip Kelly's job or what was it? I just blanked completely on the receiver coach's name.
Oh, Brian Hartline.
Yeah, Brian. I don't know why I just blanked. Yeah, Brian Hartline. It's either one of their jobs.
Or Urban Meyer comes back and returns the glory.
A lot of Ohio State fans have been calling for Urban Meyer, but it's a different game than it was 10 years ago. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm not on board with that.
Him coaching now, I think they'd have success, but I think it'd kind of be like Saban, where it's still kind of those old school things.
It'll be like Dabo.
Yeah. Although Dabo's starting to get portal guys.
I know he got his first portal guy this season, first ever portal.
He got another one. He got the Purdue edge rusher the other day too.
Well, he has to compete against Bill Belichick now.
Yeah.
I saw a thing. It was Chapel Bill, and I thought that was so hard.
Yeah. One of the recruits. Yeah.
One of the transfers said Chapel Bill. It's so hard.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, this game is going to be one in the trenches, in a way, and I'll get into that in a second. But if you look at Tennessee's offense, obviously, you look at their run game. And it's one of the best in the country, one of the best in the SEC. It's top notch. Dylan Sampson, Cam Seldon. I mean, it's a good run game. Very, very, very good run game. But I do want to point out, Tennessee's 2 losses. When they went to Arkansas, they ran for 176 yards. When they went to Georgia, they ran for 152 yards. So completely stopping the run game isn't really how you beat them. You got to get them in 3rd and longs. You got to get it stop. You don't want to necessarily stop the run game. You want to get it to a point where they are in positions where they can't run the ball, if that makes sense. You want to put them in 3rd and 9s. You want to put them in 4th and 5s, 4th and 6, positions where they're not going to lean on the run game, to convert. In those 2 games against Georgia and Arkansas combined, they were 25% on 4th down. in every other game, counting those 2 games, so even lowering the percentage, it's probably closer to 70%, but on every other game, 62% on 4th down, which is really, really good. So you gotta bend, don't break on defense. Like I said, Heupel's going to be aggressive. He's not going to abandon it now. You got to keep them behind the chains where they're not going for it on 4th down, where they're not able to run it on a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2, and kind of lean on Dylan Sampson, like you said, against an 8-man box, because he thrives even against an 8-man box. So you really got to keep him off schedule. Like war in the trenches, it's going to be cold. I mean, I think kickoff is going to be 22 degrees. Wind chill, have it feeling under 20. Yeah, it's going to be freezing. And, I would take Tennessee in this game if I thought that it would just be, full trench battle. It's going to be a trench battle. But I also think Ohio State has the ability to take advantage of, this idea that it's going to be a trench battle, and kind of dial up some sort of shots, these downfield plays. You obviously, you have Carnell Tate, you have Jeremiah Smith, Jeremiah Smith's one of the best deep threats in the country as a freshman. So if you're Ohio State, you want to rely on that run game. You want to be able to run the ball, but you also want to be able to take the top off the defense. Tennessee has a good defense, but it's their front 7 that carries that defense. Good secondary. Gerard McCoy against, whoever he's on is going to be an elite matchup. That's one of the best corners in the country, in my opinion. And he's going to be taking on some of the best receivers in the country. Another interesting matchup is Donovan Jackson, who is a great offensive lineman, but has had struggles in pass protection as a tackle just because he's so new to it, against James Pierce. Abdul Carter against Donovan Jackson, 2 sacks, got off the edge really fast. Pierce does the same thing. So I think that if you're Ohio State, you really need to isolate Pierce. You cannot let them isolate Donovan. You got to incorporate some sort of running back help, some sort of tight end help on Pierce's side. If you don't want to do it to start the game, if you want to trust Donovan to start the game, that's fine. But if it gets to the point where you need to put someone over there, you need to put someone over there. Because James Pierce has the ability to wreck an entire game for an offense. So that's definitely going to be a very interesting matchup. Speaking of these matchups, if you're Tennessee, you see, 2 of the most penalized corners in the country. Talented corners, one of them, but very penalized. Igbenogson, great corner, super penalized. Burks has had his struggles this year. So if you're Tennessee, you want to run the ball a lot, but I also want to test these guys downfield. I want to throw these balls to where, because Igbenogson has had a problem not pulling on receivers, but, not turning around. So you have Dante Thornton, who's 6'5", Brew McCoy, who's 6'3". So you have these guys that you can take advantage of these, heavily penalized corners downfield. However, while Tennessee's defense is very good, like I said, secondary has had some issues this year. And Ohio State has a very, very, very good receiving corps. And while, like I said, this game is going to be I could see, I could really see 70% of both offensive plays being run plays. I really could. Because Tennessee already does it in the 60s, and I could even see it being north of 70 for him. But like you said, I think, the X factor in this game is Will Howard. I think his ability to, when he gets a chance to throw the ball downfield, being accurate, being precise, having pocket presence, not taking losses on sacks, his ability to do that, not turning the ball over, I think that's going to be huge for Ohio State. And if Ohio State can effectively run the ball and hit on these downfield shots, I don't see Tennessee beating them. If this game turned into a full trench war where it was just run the ball, I would take Tennessee to win this game. But I do think just that extra factor of having those receivers, and if Will Howard plays a good game, I want to take Ohio State. Nico's been building his confidence up this year. He's gotten better as the season goes, but I just think that extra factor that Ohio State has in Jeremiah Smith, in Carnell Tate, on all of those guys, I think that pushes them over the edge. And I'm going to take the Buckeyes in a close game.
Yeah, I'm taking the Buckeyes too. If it was in Neyland, I'm picking Tennessee.
If this was in Neyland, I'll put it this way. If this was in Neyland, I would take Tennessee to beat Ohio State by more than I'm taking Ohio State to beat Tennessee right now. As an Alabama fan, I don't think people understand, playing in Neyland. especially if this game was at 8 p.m. in Neyland. I think the stadium would legitimately crumble. Because I mean, I went to the Tennessee Texas A&M game a few years ago with a buddy, or last year with a buddy, and I mean that was just your normal big SEC game. This wasn't Bama or Georgia, and I mean it was shaking. So it is a great thing for Ryan Day that this game is in Columbus. I'll put it out.
Yeah.
But like you said, I don't want to say must win, but it just really feels like a must win for Ryan Day.
It is a must win. If you lose to the 9 seed when you were the number 2 seed this season, you're gone. You're gone.
Yeah. I also want to see Chip Kelly kind of get in his bag a little bit because, against Michigan, he kind of just didn't throw the ball for whatever reason. Obviously, this game, you're going to have to run the ball a lot, but I do want to see some creative stuff. But if the run's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I do want to see some creative stuff to kind of, take the top off the secondary and whatnot.
Yeah, he's gonna have to because he didn't do shit against Michigan. He saw, oh, we're going against one of the best front sevens in college football. Let's run up the gut every play, and no matter what happens, it's like he had a gun to his head or something. Like it's like Archie Griffin had a gun to his head or something. Like
Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson were like confused the entire game. The fans were booing. And that's another reason I'm picking Ohio State. I just think they are fired up about this game. At least they should be fired up about this game.
I would be.
You're playing for your coach. You're playing for your season. You're playing for a pretty heavily invested roster financially. So, I mean, Tennessee's going to be fired up too. Don't get me wrong. Tennessee fans, I mean, they're going to be fired up. But Ohio State needs to have an edge, and they should have an edge for them this game. Obviously, I said I'm picking Ohio State because of that, X factor of those receivers, and I think Tennessee has great receivers too. But I'm taking Ohio State over them. Everything else besides that, is like telling me in my ear, like whispering Tennessee. But then when you add on the fact that I really do think Ohio State is hungry, I'm gonna take them. But this game could go either way, and I would not be shocked.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what I'll do if Ohio State loses this game.
I don't want to check the group chat for weeks. I'd probably check it right after and just scroll through it.
It'll just be Charlie.
Just Charlie.
It'll be Charlie and Zach and me.
Charlie threatening to off himself.
He'll do something. He's gonna do something illegal.
Yeah.
Personally, I think if Tennessee has the 2022 offense, they're winning this game. Because that's a matchup nightmare because you have either Joe Milton or Hendon Hooker, whoever. Both are massive nightmares for the secondary. And you have Cedric Tillman, and you have Jalen Hyatt against Igbinosun and Burke. It's over.
Jalen Wright too. Yeah,
it's over.
Yeah, that would be interesting. The Georgia 2022 offense with this defense, I would put as a natty contender. I think they're still a natty contender, but I would be like, this team I think might win.
No, literally if you just took Stetson Bennett and Ladd McConkey, that's all you need, really, honestly. Because they have the run game.
And Brock Bowers, you take those three and just throw them on the Tennessee offense, and it's game over.
Yeah.
And injure Ohio State's best receiver. Maybe that too. But
yeah, and then miss a kick by 20 yards.
That was so bad. That was the worst kick I've ever seen. That wraps up the playoff games. Obviously, we'll have semifinals next week. The portal dead period starts Sunday at midnight. So we'll definitely have some stuff on that coming soon as well. A lot of portal entries, a lot of tampering, a lot of NIL.
A lot of tampering. Hell yeah, a lot of tampering.
It's so funny how obvious it has become, and just they do nothing because they don't have any control anymore. But the topic for another day. So we have a lot of good things coming. Obviously, the off season is coming soon, so gonna have a lot more content, and obviously, New Year's. Gonna be a lot more locked in, just non-exam season. Back to kind of what we started as. So appreciate y'all watching. The other two will be back next time. Hope y'all enjoy the games this weekend, as we will. Peace.